Greetings. This week we have another inexpensive Chinese pen. This is a very popular pen. This is the Jinhao x750. It's this particular model is a brushed steel model. It comes in lots of different finishes, etc. It's very often compared to its sister or brother pen, the Jinhao x450, which is a very similar sized pen. Comes in a different set of finishes, etc. The main difference between these two pens, they come standard with the exact same nib, by the way. The Jinhao x750 has a smooth all-around section, and the Jinhao x450 has this somewhat triangular grip section. The materials are slightly different. The finials on the caps and etc. are slightly different, but all in all, they are very, very similar pens and are very often compared to each other. We'll talk about the x450 in a subsequent video, but I just wanted to show it for comparison. They are very, very similar pens made by the same company, and they do come standard with the exact same nib, which is a number 6 Jinhao nib, which we'll talk about in a moment. Decently heavy pen, this particular one, 38 grams, because it is all metal and brushed steel. Quite typically sized pen. Here it is compared to a Lamy Safari and a Pilot Metropolitan. So let's take a look around this pen. On the cap band, it says Jinhao, has some little decorative scroll work, and it says X750. The top and bottom finials are just simply polished metal domes. The section is a smooth, somewhat matte finished plastic. Not a huge section, but it's very comfortable to grip and not too slippery because it is sort of a matte finished and has a nice little ring at the end there. Now, this particular pen that I'm going to show you today has a nib that I replaced. So it comes standard with this nib here, which is the standard Jinhao number 6 nib. It's a great nib. It's on lots and lots of different pens, some of which I've even reviewed already. Like, for example, if you want to look at the Jinhao 1200 review, which I did quite a while ago, this nib is featured on that pen. However, what I did was replace this nib with a stub. So this is a Goulet Pens 1.1 millimeter stub. It's about a $20 nib. The pen itself costs less than $5, so it's all in all you're in this only for about $25, including the $20 nib. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, is this Goulet 1.1 millimeter stub along with this Jinhao x750. And of course, as you probably suspected, this is a cartridge converter pen, and it does come with the cartridge. So it's got a pretty nice clip. It's got sort of this nice swooping style clip, very, very similar to what's on the x450, but a little bit different, and it's very, very springy and functional. So, as we always said, pens were meant to write. So let's see how this pen writes right now. Okay, folks, what we're writing with here today is a Jinhao x750, and more importantly, this is a Goulet 1.1 millimeter stub nib. So this pen writes quite nicely. The stub is nice and stubby, as you'd expect. So let's just demonstrate some of this nice line variation that you get with the stub. So this pretty much shows it all right here. On the downstrokes, you get a nice line north of a millimeter in width, and you get this nice, quite fine line on the horizontal strokes. So as a consequence of that, you get some quite nice variation on your writing and your strokes. So this stub basically does everything that you would expect it to do. You know, and the feed and whatnot in this pen has no trouble keeping up with it, and it's actually pretty smooth. And this nib is definitely a nice upgrade for a pen like this. So, you know, you get a relatively inexpensive pen like this, put this Goulet nib in it, and all in, you're only in for about 25 bucks, and you have a pretty nice thing to write with. So that is about it for this pen. But let's talk about this ink a bit now. This is a very interesting ink. This is Diamine Skull. Well, let's actually write it out officially. This is Diamine Skull and Roses. So what this basically is a blue ink with a red sheen. You can see the red sheen a bit on this Rhodia paper, but as is usual, let's take a look at it on some Tomoe River paper so we could really appreciate the sheen on this ink. So yet again, as we said, this is Diamine Skull and Roses. So this, as we said, is a blue ink with a red sheen. Now, you may say, blue ink with a red sheen, I've heard of that before. Isn't that what Organic Studio Nitrogen does? It does, except this, one of the nice things about this Skull and Roses ink is that it doesn't sheen quite as much. You can actually still see the blue through the sheen. So here I'm gonna do some writing with Organic Studio Nitrogen right underneath it. So here we have Organic Studio Nitrogen. And they're both fantastic inks, but I think the one thing that's nice about the Skull and Roses is it's not just all sheen. I mean, you know, the Organic Studio Nitrogen is fantastic ink. You will probably not see more sheen on any other ink that there is, except the part of the issue is that it's just all sheen. It's just all sheen. So let's let that dry for a moment while we talk about this ink. So this is a special edition ink that was for the German market. So you can, as of this airing, really only buy this ink in Germany. So if you want to get the ink outside of Germany, like I did, you actually have to purchase it through a German retailer. So I was able to get a German retailer that without an egregious amount of shipping cost, I was able to get this shipped to the US. But at the moment, this particular ink is a German market only ink, even though Diamine is a UK company and the ink is made in the UK. So, and it comes in the, again, typical Diamine 80 milliliter bottle, etc. So nothing particularly elaborate about the packaging, but it is a pretty cool ink. So if we can take a look at this, and we'll get some still shots of this to show it better, you see the blue between the Skull and Roses and the Organic Studio Nitrogen are very similar. The actual color of the red sheen is also very similar. The main difference is the sort of amount of sheen. The Organic Studio Nitrogen is a complete sheen over the entire writing, whereas the Skull and Roses, I would say, sheens in about 2/3 to 3/4 of the writing, which actually makes quite a bit of difference when you're looking at it, because you see both the sheen and the underlying color when you look at it at a certain angle, whereas with the nitrogen, it's just a pure sheen, pure red sheen that you're seeing. So again, depending on what you want and what your use might be, one ink or the other might be better for you. But the Skull and Roses is really a beautiful ink. It's got that sort of great, I guess, compromise between the nice blue underneath and the sheen. Whereas with the nitrogen, you see the blue at certain angles, but on other angles, the blue's gone altogether, and you're just seeing sheen. So again, both great inks, both have their purposes. I wouldn't exactly say which one is is better than the other. Oh, and in case you were wondering, the pen I was using with this is a TWSBI Echo with a TWSBI stub nib. So I guess that will about do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I did. As always, if you like the video, please subscribe and hit those like buttons. Don't forget those. If you have any comments, either positive or negative, I'd love to hear them. And until next time, have a good day. Bye-bye.